It's a story so many people have lived. The cloud computing dream feels amazing, infinite scale, pay-as-you-go flexibility, and then the bill arrives. Suddenly, that flexibility feels a whole lot like unpredictability. And, well, the costs can climb surprisingly high, surprisingly fast. Maybe you've felt that sting.
Oh, it's incredibly common. The ease of consumption is like a superpower for innovation, right?
Right.
But without a clear understanding of the cost implications and, how to manage them, organizations are essentially navigating blind.
Exactly. And trying to make sense of that variable spend, connecting it back to the actual business value you're getting,
Right.
that's really where FinOps steps in.
Right.
It's about bringing financial accountability to the cloud, empowering teams to make smart trade-offs between speed, cost, and value. It's definitely not just about cutting costs.
No, it's not.
It's about maximizing the value from every dollar spent in the cloud.
It's a fundamental shift in, operational mindset for the cloud era, a really big one.
So to really dig into this, we've pulled together a stack of sources, articles, case studies, expert perspectives that cover the latest thinking, common challenges, and powerful solutions in the FinOps world.
Lots of good stuff there.
Yeah, and this deep dive is custom tailored for you, our listener, to quickly get informed, understand the core concepts, discover key strategies, and hear about some real-world successes. Our mission here is basically to extract the most important nuggets, giving you the essential knowledge without, drowning you in jargon or overwhelming detail.
Sounds good. Let's explore.
All right, let's unpack this. Maybe start at the beginning. Why is FinOps so absolutely essential now?
Well, the big picture is the shift, from traditional IT where you bought physical servers, big upfront costs, but then predictable ongoing expenses to cloud computing.
Where you're renting.
Exactly. You're renting resources. And you pay based on consumption, seconds of compute, gigabytes of storage, how much data you transfer, all that.
And that pay-as-you-go model is, it's revolutionary for agility, but it also means costs can fluctuate wildly. Teams might easily spin up resources.
And forget about them.
Yeah, especially for testing environments. Or they might just use way more capacity than they truly need because, well, it's right there, instantly available.
And the data really underscores this challenge. One striking statistic we saw in the sources is that around 28% of cloud budgets are wasted each year.
28%?
Yeah, on unused or inefficiently used resources. Just think about that. Over a quarter of cloud spending potentially just sitting there, providing absolutely no value.
That statistic really hits home, doesn't it? It highlights the scale of the problem FinOps is designed to solve. It forces organizations to ask those fundamental questions. How much are we actually spending? Why are we spending it? What activity or service is driving that cost? And crucially, what business value are we getting for that spending?
And when organizations actually answer those questions and implement FinOps practices, the results can be dramatic. The sources mention some really impressive success stories.
Wait.
Well, Airbnb cutting storage costs by 27%, Lyft reducing their overall cloud costs by 40% in just 6 months.
40% in 6 months.
Yeah. And Etsy saw a 42% decrease in computing costs. Pretty significant.
Those aren't just small tweaks. They're serious financial impacts. And achieving that doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? The sources really emphasize that FinOps requires different teams working together.
Absolutely.
You need the leaders setting the strategy, finance providing budget oversight, the engineers and developers actually building and running the services.
And then you often have dedicated FinOps experts who kind of bridge those groups.
Right. It's a collaborative effort across the whole organization.
It has to be.
So if you've ever seen that kind of waste or, felt that knot in your stomach when the cloud bill arrives, FinOps provides the structure and the collaboration needed to gain control and, well, ensure you're getting value for your spend.
It brings clarity to what can feel like chaos. Definitely.
Okay, so stepping from the why to the how.
Yeah.
One of the very first, most crucial steps in FinOps is just getting visibility into your spending. Like you said, you can't optimize what you can't see.
Exactly.
Stopping that potential bleeding starts with real-time cost awareness and setting up the right alerts.
Absolutely. Knowing exactly where your money is going as you spend it, not weeks or months later, that's foundational. The sources really highlight how critical alerts are. They're your early warning system.
Instead of just listing every single possible alert, let's maybe think about them in categories based on what we saw. You need alerts to catch unexpected spikes.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Things like an unusually high spend alert or the cost anomaly detection tool from AWS, these are designed to spot those sudden abnormal changes in your spending patterns that could mean trouble.
Okay, so spotting spikes. What else?
Well, you also need alerts that help you forecast future spending. A monthly spend forecast alert is a classic example. It gives you a heads up if you're projected to blow past your budget before the month is even over.
That's proactive. I like that. And critically, I guess, alerts to identify potential waste.
Yes, definitely. An alert for unused reserved instances, for instance, tells you if you've committed to resources you're not actually using.
Paying for nothing.
Pretty much. Or service-specific spend alerts let you monitor if a particular service, maybe one you thought would be cheap, is suddenly eating up a huge chunk of your budget. And even, more granular alerts like an EC2 instance size change alert or data transfer cost alert. They remind you about specific actions or resource types that can unexpectedly drive up costs if you're not watching.
So these alerts and the dashboards you use to see the spending data they're based on, they give you the answers to those essential questions. Which services or apps are the biggest cost drivers? How much is each team or project really spending? What's the cost difference between, say, test and prod environments?
And having this real-time data empowers teams to make cost-conscious decisions daily, instead of waiting for some post-mortem analysis way down the line.
Right. So visibility isn't just about pretty graphs. It's about getting actionable information to you when you need it, preventing those painful surprises before they happen.
It's turning data into action. That's the key.
Okay, here's a concept that the sources really emphasize as being transformative for FinOps, and it's actually borrowed from the software development world. Shift left.
Ah, yes. Shift left. That's right.
Yeah.
Just like in development, where finding and fixing bugs earlier in the process is dramatically cheaper and easier.
Much cheaper.
The same applies to cloud costs.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Nansel is one expert quoted who really champions applying this shift-left thinking specifically to FinOps.
So the traditional approach is more reactive, right? You analyze cost data after a service is built and deployed, then try to figure out how to optimize it. Shifting left means pushing that cost consciousness and accountability earlier into the process, way back into the design, architecture, and development phases.
And the reason why this is so important is captured by this powerful idea in the sources. Fixing a cost issue during planning or design might take, an hour of discussion or adjustment?
Maybe.
But fixing that same issue after the service is running live in production, that could take 100 hours. It could involve multiple teams, complex changes, potential downtime. The difference is huge.
That cost and effort multiplier is just massive. The sources give a real-world example, didn't they? Where a team deployed an application that ended up costing twice what they expected.
Yeah, and it wasn't a quick fix either. They spent like 6 to 9 months trying to claw back those costs. And a key part of the problem, they hadn't planned for a simple way to turn off non-production environments outside of business hours.
Something basic like that.
Exactly. That kind of basic cost optimization should have been designed in from the very start.
This really underscores the value of empowering engineers and developers then. By giving them cost data, involving them in cost discussions during design and development, they can make more efficient architectural choices right up front.
It requires the right tools and information, obviously, but the payoff in preventing waste down the line is enormous.
Yeah.
It makes cost efficiency a design principle, not just an afterthought you bolt on later.
Okay, now let's dive into the heart of the matter for many folks. The core optimization strategies and tactics. The sources cover, a wide range of specific techniques across different cloud services. Instead of listing everything, maybe let's think about the key principles behind these optimizations and use examples to illustrate them.
Yeah, that makes sense. So one fundamental principle is definitely right sizing and efficiency. Are you using resources that are the right size for the workload? And crucially, are they running only when needed?
Right. This is where you see examples like Google automatically powering down unused dev resources that reduced compute usage by about 30% in that case.
Significant.
Or using tools to find the optimal configuration for serverless functions, like the AWS Lambda power tuning tool to find the right memory setting for both cost and performance.
Yeah, balancing those two. Another key principle is leveraging cloud pricing models. Cloud providers offer all these different ways to pay, and choosing the right one for your workload can lead to really big savings.
Okay, like what?
Well, for predictable, always-on workloads, committing to usage via reserved instances or savings plans can offer discounts up to like 70%.
70%. But there's a catch, right?
There is. You have to remember, you're committing to pay for that capacity, whether you fully use it or not. You need predictable usage.
Got it.
But then for tasks that can be interrupted, using spot instances is incredibly cost-effective. You could potentially save up to 90%. Huge savings there if the workload fits.
Wow. And it's important to stay informed about changes too, isn't it? The sources mentioned something about AWS resellers.
That's right. After June 1st, 2025, AWS is changing how resellers can share reserved instance and savings plan savings. That means customers might need to adjust their procurement strategy, maybe buy directly to keep getting those discounts. Something to watch.
Good tip. Okay, so right-sizing pricing models, what's another big principle?
Smart data management and lifecycle. Storage might seem cheap per gigabyte, but boy, does it add up, especially with data growth just exploding everywhere.
Yeah, storage can sneak up on you.
So this is where strategies like data tiering come in. Moving less frequently accessed data to cheaper storage classes like Azure's cool or cold storage tiers, which can save around 97% on storage costs.
97%.
It's crucial. But again, a catch. You have to factor in the potential cost to retrieve that data later. It's usually more expensive to access cold data.
Right, trade-offs. And just like cleaning up unnecessary data seems obvious but important.
Oh, absolutely. Examples like setting lifecycle policies to automatically remove old container images in repositories like ECR, or reducing log retention times in services like CloudWatch, or just cleaning up old snapshots.
Yeah.
And there's that story about Avi Kinyan reducing S3 costs by 36% just by stopping unnecessary list operations.
Yeah.
It shows how even seemingly small, frequent actions can have a really big impact.
36% from list operations, that's amazing.
And understanding how services manage copies, too, like the difference between snapshots, which usually save changes, use less space, and backups, which are often full copies, use more space but maybe offer better protection.
Yeah.
Understanding that for databases is vital for managing storage costs effectively.
Okay. Then there are optimizations maybe more specific to certain service categories, like compute beyond just basic right-sizing.
Yeah. Migrating to newer, more efficient processor types like the ARM-based Graviton instances has shown good results. Slalom, for example, saved about 15% on RDS and Lambda just by moving to T4 GRM instances. Better performance per dollar.
It's interesting. What about networking? That feels like a place costs can hide.
They definitely can. Data transfer costs between services or regions are a common blind spot. So paying attention to those and optimizing things like the type of API gateway you use, HTTP, is generally cheaper than REST.
Good to know.
Or using direct integrations instead of routing traffic unnecessarily through, say, a Lambda function just to pass it along can yield savings.
Okay. And databases, any specific pitfalls there?
Oh, yeah. Hidden costs are definitely a thing. That example of Cloud SQL point-in-time recovery logs for a busy database just ballooning.
The 2.3 terabytes one?
That's the one, 2.3 TB of storage for just the 13 GB database because of the recovery logs. It's alarming. Understanding those costs and adjusting settings like reducing log retention or maybe resizing the database periodically is really key.
Wow. And finally, Kubernetes. That seems notoriously complex for cost optimization.
It is, often due to resource over-allocation because it's hard to predict needs. But tools are emerging. Carpenter was highlighted in the sources as a game changer. It automates selecting the most cost-effective and appropriately sized servers or nodes for your containers. It even helps utilize spot instances effectively within Kubernetes.
And the results.
Pretty impressive according to the sources. Adidas saved 50% on their dev and staging clusters. Orca Security cut costs by over 50% using Carpenter alongside right-sizing and picking the right chip types.
50%, wow.
Yeah. And other tools like OpenCost help track Kubernetes costs, while Kida helps scale applications down to 0 when they're not in use, which also saves money.
So these examples really demonstrate that optimizing requires, well, understanding the specific services you use and applying the relevant strategies, right-sizing, commitments, data management, and leveraging those service-specific features.
Exactly. It's about applying those principles across your specific environment.
So these principles and tactics, they aren't just abstract technical details. They translate directly into money saved on your cloud bill. Even seemingly small adjustments, if you apply them consistently, can lead to significant cost reductions over time.
It's definitely an ongoing discipline, not a one-time fix.
Okay, implementing all these strategies across a large organization sounds like a massive undertaking. How do companies actually operationalize FinOps? This must be where data, tools, and automation become absolutely essential.
Right. Having the visibility we talked about is step one, definitely. But making that data actionable for everyone is the real challenge. One big hurdle the sources point out is fragmented cost allocation. Companies often
Meaning?
Well, often it relies heavily on tagging resources. But tagging, while crucial for attributing costs, often suffers from inconsistent practices, lots of manual effort, and frankly, scaling issues. It just becomes hard to get a clear picture of who's spending what.
And without that clear allocation, you can't really empower teams to take ownership of their costs, can you?
Exactly. So automated tagging tools and having really consistent naming conventions, as mentioned by Scott Corbett in one source, are vital steps beyond just telling people, hey, add tags.
Makes sense.
And this challenge, especially for organizations using multiple clouds, really highlighted the need for standardization. Which brings us to FOSIS.
FOCU.
Yeah, the FinOps Open Cost and Usage Specification.
Okay, what does that do?
It's basically a game changer because it provides a standard way for cloud providers, AWS, Azure, GCP, OCI, they're all supporting it now to present their billing data.
So instead of dealing with totally different file formats from each cloud.
Exactly. Instead of building custom converters for each provider's unique billing file, you can use a single standard. It massively simplifies analysis and tooling, especially in a multi-cloud environment.
That sounds huge.
It is. And version 1.1 already added more detail on things like capacity reservations and commitment discounts, making it even more useful for analysis. The plan is to expand it further to cover SaaS, data center, and licensing costs down the road.
Wow, okay, so standardization is key. And beyond data standards, automation seems like it's becoming non-negotiable. The sources talk about things like algorithmic governance.
Right. Using smart programs, essentially, to monitor and automatically adjust spending based on predefined rules you set up.
Taking the manual work out of it.
Exactly. And open source tools are emerging to make this easier. Like OpenOps was described as a free, no-code automation platform specifically for FinOps workflows. Early adopters apparently report saving 40% of the time they used to spend on manual tasks.
40% time savings, that's significant.
Yeah. And tools like Azure Policy or using Terraform for AWS config checks let you manage cost optimization policies and monitors as code, which brings that infrastructure as code discipline to cost management.
And AI, is that playing a role here too?
It's starting to weave its way in, yes. The concept of AI agents assisting with FinOps is being discussed. Microsoft Copilot for Azure Cost and Budget Management is one example cited, offering forecasting insights and better data handling, including FOSIS support.
So AI helping with analysis and prediction.
Right. And other AI-powered platforms like FinOpsly are emerging, aiming to use AI for optimization recommendations too.
So the bottom line is you definitely don't have to track all of this manually anymore. The industry is building the tools and the standards to help you operationalize these practices much more efficiently.
It's really about achieving scale and consistency in your FinOps efforts.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the tech, the data, the tools. But the sources consistently circle back to something equally, if not maybe more, critical. The human element. FinOps isn't just a technical practice. It's fundamentally about culture and collaboration across the organization.
It truly is. It's about fostering a shared sense of ownership for cloud spending among, well, everyone involved in building and running services. That means engineering, operations, finance, product teams, everybody.
And the sources are pretty clear. Without building this kind of collaborative culture, companies inevitably end up wasting money. Technical solutions alone just aren't enough.
No, they're not. Building that culture involves bridging knowledge gaps, right? Training technical teams on the financial impact of their choices and training finance teams on, how cloud actually works.
Getting everyone speaking the same language.
Exactly. And it's about driving behavioral change, ensuring that those cost reports and insights actually lead to concrete actions being taken.
It requires building awareness, emphasizing that shift-left mindset we talked about earlier, and establishing continuous communication and collaboration channels between all these different teams.
Encouraging engineers, specifically to be cost-conscious, is particularly vital because they make daily decisions that directly impact spending.
Right.
So making cost data easily visible and understandable to them, maybe using showback tools or even informal things like the cloud cost coffee sessions mentioned in one article. They can really foster this awareness. Establishing that shared language, as you said, is also key.
And the real-world success stories often seem to highlight this collaboration, don't they? Akamai cutting cloud costs by 40%. That wasn't just about building new tools. It was heavily driven by their engineering and finance teams working really closely together.
Yeah, absolutely. Similarly, Orca Security's significant Kubernetes savings that required collaboration across different technical teams to implement things like Carpenter effectively.
It really reinforces that FinOps is a team sport. Everyone plays a role in optimizing value.
It has to be seen that way.
So this is where you come in. Regardless of your specific role, whether you're writing code, managing budgets, or leading a team, you have a part to play in building a culture where cost awareness and optimization are just, well, part of how things get done.
It's a shared responsibility, ultimately leading to shared success.
Okay, as if managing current cloud costs wasn't dynamic enough, the whole landscape is constantly evolving. The sources highlight how FinOps practices are really having to adapt to new major cost drivers, particularly AI.
Oh, absolutely. AI systems bring a whole new layer of cost complexity. While some basic FinOps principles still apply, pay as you go, looking for discounts, the specifics are quite different.
Oh, so?
Well, prices for AI services and the specialized hardware they need can change dramatically and quickly. New services are popping up constantly. And the usage metrics are often measured in things like tokens, which can be pretty abstract and hard to track accurately.
Yeah, tokens feels less concrete than gigabytes.
Exactly. And hardware scarcity for those specialized AI processors is also a big factor influencing costs right now.
So tracking these AI costs requires different methods then?
Yeah, the sources mention various approaches from just basic usage counts to trying to estimate token consumption or ideally getting exact token usage data somehow. Some suggest you might even need specialized databases just to track who is using AI and how it's impacting the overall spend.
And measuring the ROI must be tough too.
Oh, very. Accurately measuring the business impact or return on investment of specific AI initiatives against their often significant cost is still a major challenge for many organizations.
And we can't ignore the environmental side either, right? Training and running these large AI models takes a lot of energy.
For sure. Which links FinOps directly to the growing focus on sustainability, or green ops as it's sometimes called.
Green ops. So that's about balancing financial efficiency with environmental efficiency.
That's the idea. There's growing regulatory pressure, plus demand from customers and investors, pushing organizations to be more sustainable in their IT operations. And tools are emerging to help with this.
Like what?
Well, OpenCost, which we mentioned for Kubernetes cost tracking, can also help monitor carbon emissions alongside financial costs. There's also KubeGreen for Kubernetes, which aims specifically to help reduce CO2 emissions.
And AWS has something too.
Yeah, AWS provides a tool to export your carbon emissions data to S3, giving you a starting point for tracking per account per region. However, well, the sources also raise important points about transparency and avoiding greenwashing, particularly around practices like using unbundled renewable energy certificates or RECs. The concern is that sometimes the link between buying the credit and actually powering operations with new renewable energy can be a bit opaque.
Ah, okay. So transparency is key there too. And FinOps isn't just staying within cloud infrastructure, is it? It's expanding.
Right. The principles are expanding into other big spending areas like SaaS management, data centers, and IT asset management, or ITAM. Software audit costs, for example, are spiking for SaaS users because contracts are complex and it's just hard to truly optimize consumption versus licenses.
That Oracle Java licensing change example was pretty stark.
Yeah, changing to a per-employee model reportedly caused 2 to 5x cost increases for some companies. It's a huge reminder that software licensing is a major cost driver that needs that FinOps-like discipline tracking usage, understanding contracts, exploring alternatives like open source, but also weighing the risks involved in switching.
So it's becoming much broader. Looking at the overall market trends, what did the sources say? Cloud growth still strong.
Oh yeah, cloud growth continues strong. AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud still leading. But a huge driver now is the massive capital expenditure on servers needed specifically for AI infrastructure.
AI really changing the game.
It is. And this intense demand and cost pressure is even causing some companies to look at bringing certain workloads back in-house, a trend sometimes called cloud repatriation. They're trying to find the right balance between cloud and private IT, aiming to be cloud smart, not just cloud first.
Interesting balance. And the FinOps tool market itself.
It's definitely maturing. We're seeing consolidation with major acquisitions like Flexera acquiring NetApp's Spot FinOps business and DoAT acquiring Live Diagrams. That suggests integration and maturity in the tooling landscape.
So the key takeaway here is that FinOps isn't static at all. It's a really dynamic practice that's adapting fast, integrating new tech like AI, addressing new concerns like sustainability, and definitely expanding its scope beyond just infrastructure into software, data centers, and more.
It's absolutely an evolving field. It requires continuous learning and adaptation from everyone involved.
And speaking of evolving fields, all this growth and complexity in FinOps must point to a growing demand for skilled professionals, right?
Absolutely. The sources really highlight that FinOps roles require this unique blend of skills. You need the technical understanding of cloud platforms, definitely, but also financial acumen, strong analytical abilities to make sense of all this complex data.
And the people skills.
And crucially, yes, strong collaboration and communication skills to work effectively across all those different teams: finance, engineering, product, leadership.
So you see roles emerging like FinOps specialists, analysts, consultants, managers, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And there are established paths now to gain these skills. Technical degrees, sure, but also specific FinOps certifications from organizations like the FinOps Foundation. They offer certified practitioner, professional, things like that, plus, of course, hands-on experience.
And those certifications, are they valuable?
The sources suggest they can be very valuable, not just for individual career growth, but also for establishing credibility and fostering that cross-functional understanding within an organization. We saw mentions of people sharing how certifications help bridge gaps. And there's also a growing community, online, like the FinOps Connect Slack and regional meetups where you can connect with other FinOps professionals and learn from peers.
So if this topic interests you, whether your background is more technical or financial or operational, there's definitely a place for you in this growing and important field, and there are plenty of resources out there to help you learn and connect.
It's definitely a field built on collaboration and continuous learning. Seems like a good place to be.
Okay, wow. We have covered a significant amount of ground in this deep dive. We started by acknowledging that common challenge of unpredictable cloud costs and introduced FinOps as the practice designed to bring financial accountability and really optimize for value in the cloud.
We explored the fundamental importance of visibility, seeing your spending, and using real-time alerts to understand what's happening. And then that strategic advantage of shifting left, addressing cost issues early in the development lifecycle.
Right. We then dove into the core optimization principles, things like right-sizing, leveraging pricing models, smart data management, and service-specific tactics across all those key areas: compute, storage, networking, databases, Kubernetes.
And we used examples of real-world savings from the sources to illustrate those points.
Yeah. And we discussed the essential role of things like data standards, Photheus being the big one, plus automation tools, and even the emerging application of AI in making FinOps practices scalable and, efficient.
And finally, we looked at that absolutely crucial human element, the culture of collaboration that's really needed for FinOps to succeed, and how the practice itself is evolving to integrate new technologies like AI, address sustainability concerns, and expand into areas like SaaS and ITAM.
It's clear that FinOps is a critical, multifaceted practice. It's pretty essential for organizations to thrive in this dynamic cloud landscape we're all operating in.
Absolutely, no question about it.
Okay, so we've talked extensively about the tools, the strategies, the technologies driving FinOps success, and the sources provided some really rich examples for all of them. But what consistently emerged, maybe as the most powerful takeaway, woven throughout all those discussions on shift left, culture, collaboration, it's the importance of people working together and making cost-aware decisions early in the development process. So reflecting on everything we've discussed, what if the single most impactful FinOps tool isn't a piece of software you buy or a dashboard you build, but actually the culture of awareness and collaboration you help build within your own team?
That's a great thought. It really is the foundation, isn't it? The foundation upon which all the other technical strategies and tools can truly succeed. It requires ongoing effort, for sure, but the potential rewards in terms of both financial efficiency and more empowered, collaborative teams, they seem immense.